Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel several times before, and they are both very well established and very well respected names within the Japanese craft beer scene. When it comes to the home brewery, these guys are as I say, very well respected, but very well rounded in their output. But probably their most well respected beers these days are their big barrel aged kind of funky saisons and things like that. They do some really outstanding beers in that particular category, but pretty much anything this brewery tries is very, very good. So a brewery that I would highly, highly recommend. Now, when it comes to the away brewery, they are also very well rounded, but I would describe them more as a brewery who does really solid takes on more kind of classic styles of beer. But I have noticed in recent times that they've been getting a little bit more experimental, and that's been very interesting to see as well. So I look forward to reviewing more of their kind of unusual beers going forward. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from the home brewery today is one of their latest releases. It is a style that I've had from them quite a few times before, and one that I know they can do very well, but it does have a little bit of a twist to it, which is more reminiscent of one of the well-known beers from the away brewery, and I'm just really curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us, because it is supposed to be really pretty good. So like I said, very curious to try this one. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Japan. For the home brewery, we are going to head to Nagano Prefecture, which is in the Tohoku region to the northwest of Tokyo, and to be precise, we are going to go to a little town called Yamanouchi, and that happens to be home to the Tamamura Honten sake company, who released their beers under the name Shiga Kogen beer. So this particular beer comes from their barrel-aged Yama-Bushi series. It's called Taro. It comes in at 6.5% ABV. It is a wine and whiskey barrel-aged saison with a little bit of Japanese peach added into it. I believe it's called the Hakuho peach, if I'm not mistaken, and this one is brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Minoh Beer from Minoh, just to the north of Osaka, in the Kansai region. So yeah, this one is a beer that I've heard very good things about, and a lot of people I know in the Japanese craft beer scene were really quite excited about this one. I think this is one of the first ones they've released in this series in cans, which makes it stand out a little bit. But there we go, Taro, a 6.5% peach saison aged in wine and whiskey barrels from Shiga Kogen beer in Yamanouchi in Nagano, in collaboration with Minoh Beer from Minoh, Osaka, in the Kansai region. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. Really excited to see these guys collaborating again. I think the last time was back in about 2022, 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Shiga Kogen beer and from Minoh Beer, and we will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the fairly near future, because I do love my Japanese beers and I go over there very often. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite often because I go over there very often to visit my son, and we get a good selection of Japanese beers here in Hong Kong as well. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then to tell you a wee bit about the breweries. We'll start off with Tamamura Honten Shiga Kogen beer, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, as I mentioned to you already, the Tamamura Honten company is based in Yamanouchi village in Nagano Prefecture in the Tohoku region of Japan. You'll find it a few hundred kilometers to the northwest of Tokyo, and this region of course is very well known for its ski slopes and onsen hot springs as well. So the history of the Tamamura Honten company goes back to 1805 when they began brewing sake, and of course they more recently began brewing beer under the name Shiga Kogen, which translates into like Shiga Heights, Shiga Mountain beer if you want to put it into English. But they also produce a little bit of wine as well. Now, the leader of the beer project is Sato Eigo, who returned to his family's business in 2003, having previously worked in a securities firm in Tokyo for a number of years. And the idea to brew beer apparently came when the number of skiers visiting the resort began to dwindle, and so in May of 2004 they applied for their brewing license and they received it 4 months later. But they bought their brewing equipment and trained for a week at a brewery down in Kyushu before beginning their own commercial activities, and they only had a consultant for help in the very early days. But Tamamura Honten are quite an interesting company because they produce some of their own hops, their own sake rice, their own barley, buckwheat and blueberries, and they actually have their own hop variety that they developed called Shinsuwaze, which apparently is a hybrid between a Czech Žatec or Sats hop and a local Japanese variety, and they originally used it as a bittering hop for lagers, but it's also used in a number of their beers now as an aroma hop as well, from what I understand. But the brewery also have 2 tasting rooms, which are known as Tepper rooms. There's one at the brewery and one at the Ichinose Chalet Shiga Hotel. And they've been running the Snow Monkey Festival at the resort as well since 2012, which has proved to be very, very popular. And they've also got another beer restaurant now called Farmhouse, which opened back in 2017. But over the years, they've continued to develop new recipes and expand the brewery's infrastructure. And of course, they've got their Yama-Bushi barrel program as well, which has proved to be very popular and very impressive. And as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 165 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. The other thing to mention about this brewery would be that the artwork on the bottles is designed by Tanaka Noriyuki, and it is very distinctive. So the Yama-Bushi beers always have this kind of like flower pattern on them, whereas the other Shiga Kogen ones have like a sort of they have the kind of dragon round on a sort of scroll on them, so they're quite distinctive as well. You can check out some of my other reviews that I've done involving this brewery in the past. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Shiga Kogen beer and the Tamamura Honten company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's head south to Osaka then, where I do of course spend a lot of time, and we're going to go to Minoh Beer, one of the first Japanese craft breweries that I ever really encountered. So Minoh Beer, as I mentioned to you already, are from the Minoh city part of Osaka, which is about 15 kilometers to the north of the centre of the city, and this area of Osaka is really famous for the Meiji no Mori Minoh Quasi-National Park, which is one of the oldest in Japan, and it's also known for the Katsuoji Buddhist temple, which is over 1200 years old. And the monkey symbol that you often see used by Minoh Beer is a reference to the Osaru monkey population that you'll find in that national park. But if we go to the brewery itself, the Minoh Brewery, or AGI Beer Incorporated as the parent company is known, was founded back in 1996, and it's owned by the Oshita family, who had run an alcohol shop for about 30 years prior to opening the brewery. But apparently the family went for dinner one night, and on the way home, Papa Oshita, Masaji, his first name, pointed to a building and said that they would be brewing beer in there soon, which was a surprise to the whole family. But it turned out that he had bought a new brew kit from New Zealand, and he had rented out the building so that they could get brewing. So the brewery apparently had quite an uphill struggle when they started, because many of the little Jibiru breweries that popped up in after 1993 when the laws changed were going bust, because, you know, frankly, the import of the ingredients was quite expensive, and they couldn't match the price of the imported German beers, nor could many of them really match the quality of the stuff that was coming in. But public opinion, of course, wasn't that great when it came to Jibiru, but Minoh Beer have been one of the ones who've been a bit of a stalwart, and they've gone on to become one of the most decorated craft breweries in Japan. Sadly though, in 2012, Masaji Papa Oshita passed away, and the brewery is now run by the family's 3 daughters. So with it being female run, it's a really pioneering brewery in that particular regard. So Kaori had been appointed by her father to be the brewer. She initially trained at a brewery in Kobe before going to the National Research Institute of Brewing, the RNIB, in East Hiroshima, and Kaori said that she actually learned a lot on the job, and she's constantly tweaking her recipes, and she credits Nakanishi of Issa Kadoya as having been a great mentor to her. Do check out that brewery as well if you get the chance. But in 2000, Mayuko joined the company, having freshly graduated, and she helped her sister with the brewing, bottling and labelling, and then the third sister, Nozomi, joined the company in 2010, and she manages the kind of office and admin side of the company from what I understand. But in 2015, they invested in a new bottling machine, and they opened the Minoh Beer warehouse, and they also run the Beer Belly pubs in Osaka. But I think a couple of them have shut down. But the one in Tenma is still there, and I would recommend that you go and check out that place as well. It's quite a fun wee place to go and have some sausages and some beer. But these guys are still, however, quite a small operation in the grand scale of things, and they're producing approximately 450,000 litres of beer per year. As of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 315 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I say, they do quite a wide variety of different styles, but the ones that I would really recommend would be the Pilsner. Their Pilsner is great. The WIPA is one of my personal favourites, and if you do happen to come across it, the Imperial Stout is awesome as well. And you know, they've got the different Zaru beers as well, which are different IPAs. There's a West Coast one, a black IPA, and they've done a couple of hazy IPAs recently as well, which are supposed to have been very, very good. But yeah, Minoh Beer, one of the first Japanese craft breweries that I encountered when I went over to Japan for the first time back in 2014, and they have remained a firm favourite, especially the WIPA and the Pilsner. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Minoh Beer for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, that is the end of your history section for this video. A little bit longer, of course, because both of these breweries are very well established in Japan. But let's go on and actually talk a little bit about this beer itself. So, as I mentioned earlier on, this one is a 6.5% Saison. The beer itself was apparently brewed back in November of 2023, and it's the second collaboration between the two breweries. Originally, this one was intended for Shiga Kogen's 20th anniversary, but they decided it wasn't quite ready and then decided to delay it until the 21st. But the beer is a Saison. It is a Saison style beer, this one, or a Saison base. It uses Hakuho peach, which is used quite extensively by Minoh Beer, from what I understand. Their peach Weizen has proved to be a very, very popular beer, so it uses the peaches that they use in that one. And then the blend apparently is 1 part whiskey barrel aged for 15 months, and the remaining 6 parts of it are wine barrel aged for 17 months. So yeah, quite an interesting one, this, I have to say. So I'm really not sure exactly what to expect from this one. But like we said, it's called Taro, 6.5% peach infused Saison with a mix, and it's a blend. A cuvee, I guess we have to call this one when it's a blend of whiskey barrel and wine barrel aged beers. So yeah, I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There you can see, as I say, this kind of hop flower type shape is the symbol of the Yama-Bushi series from Shiga Kogen beer, and you can see the Minoh Beer monkey just sitting in the middle of that one, and you can see plain silver top on the can there, and yeah, there is the Tamamura Honten sort of dragon on this one too. I think I'll need to keep this can because this one is quite a special one, and this, as I say, is one of the first beers that this brewery has released in cans actually, and they're definitely the first one in the Yama-Bushi series if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, along with the other one which you'll see me review a little bit later. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. I'm really quite excited and very curious to try this one, so let's do it. The Taro from Shiga Kogen beer, part of the Tamamura Honten company. in Yamanouchi, Nagano, in collaboration with Minoh Beer from Minoh in Osaka. So yeah, I think we've poured about half the beer out and into the glass at this point, but that should be enough for us to have a wee look at for the moment, and we can put the rest in a little bit later on. Now, with the half that we've poured in, we can see it's got just over half a finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head, but that's going to fade away to be quite a thin foamy layer very quickly, and it will leave a nice ring around the edge of the glass there. But I'll just let you have a little look at that one before we get stuck into it. You can see nice medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, but it does get a little bit soapier the further up the head that you go. The beer itself actually has a little bit of natural haze to it, which is kind of what you would expect from a Saison. If you remember, the Saison is the Belgian kind of farmhouse beer, but it's also popular in the French, in the very north of France as well. Like Bière de Gare is quite a similar style, but a wee bit more malty and higher in alcohol, if I remember correctly. But yeah, lovely kind of bright golden yellow straw colour, this one. But as I say, a bit of natural haze to it because of the use of wheat and things in this beer. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation. You can see some bubbles coming up and just breaking the surface there, and one or two little ones sticking toward the side of the glass. But all in all, I think this one looks very, very nice actually, and pretty much as you would expect from the Saison style. But let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's going to have in store for us, because that is of course going to be the very interesting thing with this one. Ooh, right, okay, so straight away with this one, it's got that lovely big sort of white wine vinous quality just jumping out at you. Lovely smooth oakiness to it as well. I'd love to know actually what wine barrels they've used in this, whether they're Australian or Chilean, or exactly what they are. There is a lot of good Japanese wine there. I've tried one or two of them, and it's, I really, really like it. The Japanese grapes just taste a little bit different. You're on a volcanic island, your soil profile is really different. The Japanese grapes for me are lovely and oily and very, very sweet. So it would have been cool if they've done this one with Japanese wine barrels. Really don't know. But anyway, that's beside the point. With this one, as I say, that big white wine vinous quality kind of jumps out of this one at you. But you do, once your nose kind of adjusts to this beer a little bit more, you start to get the actual malty backbone of the beer along with the hoppy and kind of fruity sides of things. But yeah, so the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. But yeah, it's kind of given everything I would expect, so let's just break that aroma down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, the way this one goes together is lovely though. So as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy your aromas before you get stuck into the beer. So the backbone of this one then, as I say, you've got that lovely kind of smooth oaky character coming out of this one. As I've often said, European oak is a little bit, how would you say, drier than North American oak, for example. They're different species of tree, but I get the impression that this one might well be North American oak, to be honest with you, because it's just got that wee bit of smoothness, and you can detect a little bit more of that kind of vanilla type quality coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that this all goes together, I think, is quite interesting. But I do suspect, yeah, North American oak in this one, wee bit of vanilla there. You've got that lovely big vinous quality coming out of the beer, as I say. I think it gets a little bit more kind of oily and green grapey the more that you smell of the beer. But then above that, you absolutely have more of above that, you absolutely have more of a kind of nice bready backbone to the beer. So yeah, I like the way that this one kind of all pieces together. How would we say? The malty backbone of this beer then, you've got a little bit of like a fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this one. There's a good little bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker coming out of the beer as well. So fresh white bready bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker. You can smell a fluffier white bready note out of this one. There's a good little bit of wheaty character in there as well. And I'm also getting little hints of like McVitie's digestive biscuit. I don't know if I would go quite as far as like butter candy butterscotch as you can sometimes get with these beers, but absolutely there is a little bit of like McVitie's digestive biscuity type sweetness in this, and when it's, you know, you would kind of expect that. If it was an Imperial Saison, you know, like 9-10% or something, you would get a little bit more of that kind of brown sugary type quality out of it. But yeah, the malty yeasty side of this one is, or the malty side of this one is quite interesting. Now when it comes to the yeasty side of the beer, for me, this one, what can we say about it? The yeasty side of the beer for me is, it's got like a little bit of a dense, it's got a wee bit of a more dense white bready character to it, but then yeah, it's got the fluffier, you can smell the almost the sweeter white bread to it, but yeah, fluffier white bread as well, and a fair wee bit of cracker and sort of slightly woody, farmhousey bready type notes coming out of this one, which again is exactly what you would expect from this style. Now, there is a little bit of hoppy character to this one, but what you have to remember about these beers is that when it comes to Saisons, especially if they're barrel aged, the hoppy character is going to drop out quite a little bit, and you can smell that is the case here. But in fairness, because of the kind of brightness of the white green grapes, you're still getting the impression that there's a fairly substantial green component to this one. So you can smell the big vinous qualities, and then yeah, it's the yeah, it's definitely got, as I say, more of the kind of grassy and floral type notes coming out of it from the hop. So let's just focus on that green component and see what we get. So I suspect that this one is using a little bit of like Hallertau or Tettnang hops, probably German noble hops of some description. And of course within that you've got like Mittelfrüh, Perl, Hercules, all of these kind of things. But yeah, a lovely little bit of smooth earthiness in there, a wee touch of a woody herbally note, and yeah, quite a bright floral and kind of grassy character. But again, the vinous character just pushes back against that a little bit. So yeah, the way that all of that sort of pieces together, I think is really, really interesting. So yeah, let's just put this one all together and see, let's just put all of this together and see what we have. So yeah, the fruity side of this one, kind of as you'd expect, you've got quite a little bit of like almost gooseberry character in there. The white green grapes of course are coming out. I do get a little touch of apricot to this one, a big oily sort of peary character, and yeah, big oily sort of peary notes. And what else would we say? Yeah, big oily sort of peary characters, and maybe just a wee bit of sultana or something. But of course the the overwhelming component of this beer is absolutely the kind of vinous white green grapey characters. Now we haven't really mentioned the peach in this one, and in honesty, I don't get, I think the white green grapey vinous character sort of pushes over that quite a little bit. You do get a little bit of like peachy sharpness in the top of the nose, but I wanted to leave that because I thought it would become a little bit more sort of pungent, if you like, the more that we smelled of the beer, but I just don't feel it does it that much. But I've no doubt we will get it out in the flavour. But for me, the vanilla notes from the wood kind of mix in with the peachy character a little bit, so it's this like slightly peachy vanilla type note that comes out of the beer as well, the more that you smell of it. So all in all, a really interesting smelling beer, this one. Just take a little bit of time to enjoy that before you get stuck in. So yeah, I'm very curious to try this one, so I think it probably is about time for us to do that. So yeah, this one is the Taro from the barrel-aged Yama-Bushi series by Shiga Kogen Beer, part of the Tamamura Honten company. This one comes in at 6.5%. Hakuho, if I've got that right, the Hakuho Peach barrel-aged Saison, brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Minoh Beer from Minoh in Osaka. Let's just have a taste of this and see what it's all about, because it's supposed to be very good. Slanja, skål, cheers, kampai. Yeah, I have to say that is pretty damn solid. It's a very light and quite clean and drinkable beer. It's got a lovely sort of slickness to it, which I would say is kind of amplified by the fact, you know, the as I always call it, the Japanese cleanliness, because, you know, volcanic island, really top quality water, and the Japanese just have this perception that beer should always be drinkable, and this one certainly is that for sure. So yeah, but I think we need a few more sips of this just to let the palate adjust, because it is one that when you first take it in, it has quite a little bit of attack to it. So yeah, just take a few sips of this, let your palate adjust, and then start to enjoy the flavours. For me, quite often these kind of funky saisons and stuff, it's all about the aftertaste, and this one I can tell you is coming out very smooth and more sort of vanilla-y in the aftertaste, and as I say, some of that peach comes out as well. So yeah, interesting stuff, safe to say. Yeah. It's lovely stuff, this though. It's not often that I drink beers that are quite like this, but this one is pretty damn good. We've had a couple of beers that in this Yama-Bushi series from Shiga Kogen over the years, and the one that I had last time was the ume, the plum one, and that was lovely. That's one of the best Japanese beers I've ever reviewed. This one is kind of a different pace, if you like, but yeah, definitely try some of this Yama-Bushi series if you get the chance. But yeah, the more you drink of this one, the more the kind of malty character from the Saison comes out. And yeah, it is just a really light and drinkable one. I think the one we tried from this series before was a little bit heavier. As I say, when you go to the heavier parts of the kind of funky Saison spectrum, you're going to get a lot of the kind of smooth brown sugars mixing in with the Saison, and that's a lovely part of the Saison spectrum. But this one's definitely a little bit lighter, crisper, and just brighter, I think is a good way to describe this. So let's just break the flavour of this beer down a wee bit and describe it for you more in depth. We'll start on that middle third of the palate, as we always do. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely kind of smooth, what I suspect is North American oak in there. So as I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, the oaky character is a lot smoother further forward, and you can just feel that it gets progressively kind of drier toward the back of the palate there. But further forward on that middle third of your palate, there's a lot of vanilla coming out of this one for me. Then the next level up, you start to get the grapey esters coming out of this one, and I will say they actually get quite sweet and almost gooseberry-like into the aftertaste, and the sharper part of the vinous quality in this beer just sits on top of everything else. So yeah, for me, that vinous quality is there. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip. It starts to fade, and then you can feel the malty character of the beer just sort of pushing its way out. Like at this point in time, I'm really starting to get the kind of white bready and wheaty kind of qualities coming out of the beer. So above that sort of vinous layer, you can feel like a sort of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. The next layer up is, yeah, the fluffy white bread from the barley malt. Then you've got the more dense wheaty white bready character just kind of sitting on top of that, and yeah, I think the smoothness of that wheat and the softness of the white bread just kind of lingers into the aftertaste and offers you a wee bit of dryness, and that for me is the kind of quintessential side of the Saison. So yeah, if you go above that kind of white bready layer as well, I should say about the wheat, it's got a little tiny touch of dryness further back and it's more smooth further forward. Same as we were saying about the woody side of things earlier. But in the dead centre of your palate, you've just got a little circle there, and in that circle there's a wee bit of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, and there's a little touch of McVitie's digestive biscuit coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that this goes together in that regard, I think, is quite nice as well. So yeah, how would we say, the I think that covers everything we really need to say about the middle third of your palate, in honesty. I think that pretty much covers it. So let's go to the back third of your palate. Now, as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to show you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build-up in there. The fluffier white bready barley malts in the base, and the slightly more dense wheaty white bread is kind of in the top there. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, it's got the drier side of the wood in there, but it's still really quite smooth actually. On top of that, you get the kind of, you get a sort of, you do get a slight little bit of white wine vinous-y type quality, but then yeah, you've got the fresh white bready bread crust in there, a kind of Jacob's cream crackery note. You can feel that there's a fluffy, fresh, white bready barley malt layer in there, the more dense wheaty white bready character sitting on top of that, and that is just very, very smooth in this one. Really doesn't give you much bite at all, it's just a little touch drier, and then above everything else, pardon me, you start to get the yeasty side of the beer. So let's have a wee look at the kind of yeasty side of things in this one. Yeah, so the yeasty side of this beer for me, it's how would we say, the yeasty side of this one, at its core, it's got a little bit more of an almost kind of sweet wholemeal brown bready kind of character to it. Then as you move further out from that, it does get a little bit more like a fluffy white bread, and it's kind of similar to the barley malt white bread that you get in the middle third of your palate. Then the very edge of it's a little bit more like a kind of grainy brown bready bread crust. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one is really, really quite nice. Yeah, the yeasty character does linger there into the aftertaste as well, and it just gives you that lovely little bit of kind of smooth graininess to the beer as well. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together is quite nice, and definitely back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, I really like the way that that goes together in this one. So yeah, how do we say, I think that covers the malty and yeasty side of the beer. So let's go to the kind of green component in this one. Now, one of the things to always watch out for in these beers when you add fruit adjuncts in is that the fruity side of the beer is always going to suppress the green component a little bit, and you can to an extent feel that going on here, but it's amplified by the fact that this one is a white wine barrel aged beer. So yeah, you can feel that there's that sort of vinous and slightly peachy quality just pushing back against the green component, but nevertheless, and even with it being barrel aged and the hoppy character dropping out of it, you do still get a little bit of green component in this one. So let's just talk about that. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of a slightly smooth earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a more, yeah, a little bit of a more almost woody type quality to it as well, very slightly herbal. Then pushing further forward from that, you can feel it gets a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic as you reach the front corners of your palate, and then yeah, round the front curve of the tongue, it is just that little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. So yeah, the way that that kind of pieces together in this one, I think is really, really nice, and that gets a big thumbs up from me as well. So yeah. As I say, the vinous character really comes out around that kind of front curve of your tongue there. But yeah, it does show you the kind of more peachy side a little bit further back. But let's focus on that front third of your palate then, and the sort of hoppy side of the beer, if you like, just to round off our tasting section here. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get that little bit of bready build up in there, the fluffy white bready barley malt character there, then the more dense wheaty white bready character as well. The base of that front third of your palate is yeah, you get the nice smooth oaky side of things. It's very vanilla further forward. You can feel the sort of vinous qualities, the white bready bread crust, the cracker, fluffy white bread from the barley malt, and the smoother wheaty side of things. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer, for me, from the hoppy side of things, is kind of like I was describing from the aroma. So yeah, further back on that front third of your palate, it's got a wee bit of a it's got a little bit of a, how would we say, a more sort of sultana type character to it, and then, you know, dry white green grapes. So it's got a little bit of sultana type quality. Then as you move further forward into the middle of that front third of your palate, there's a bit of a kind of dry apricot-y note, and then yeah, the front half of the front third of your palate is a little bit more about the kind of oily pear, and there's a wee bit of like fresh green apple just behind the very front tip of your tongue, and that's kind of mixing in with all the grassy esters in there. But sitting on top of all that, you do get the peach, and I think the peach kind of mixes in with the smoother side of the wood, and also the slightly vanilla quality. So yeah, the peachy character in this one, for me, it does offer you a little bit of kind of sharpness around the edges of your palate. But yeah, I think the peachy side of this one for me is really mixing in with that the vanilla and the woody side of the beer. So it comes out more and more into the aftertaste, this one. But the Saison backbone of this beer, I think, is great. And one of the beers that I really do need to try from Shiga Kogen actually is their regular Saison, because I'm sure this beer is based on that recipe. I'm sure somebody was telling me that. So yeah, I need to go and actually just get the regular Saison from the Shiga Kogen kind of core range, if you like, and compare it to some of these beers. But yeah, the peach Weizen that Minoh Beer do as well is really nice, and it's got that lovely smooth kind of peach, and well, slightly sharp in the beginning, but very smooth peachy character coming out of it too. So if I can get a bottle of that peach Weizen, I'll review that for you on the channel too when I get the chance. But all in all, this one's a really quite nice beer, different to the other Yama-Bushis that I've had thus far, and it is definitely worth trying should you come across it. But do we need to say any more about that? The only other thing I can think to add with this one is that, yeah, when you take this beer in, just behind that front tip of the tongue, you'll get that little bit of kind of sharpness and attack from the sour side of the beer, but it mellows out really nicely. So it comes in with a little bit of, yeah, really vinous sharpness, and then it just mellows out and offers you this lovely oily white green grapey kind of quality, which, as I say, gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think that's lovely. Don't know what else to say about the flavour of this one, so I think we can round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, as I say, I'd put this one kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this. As I said earlier, it's got that lovely sort of Japanese cleanliness to it, and it's got a wee bit of slickness to it, which you do kind of expect from these wine barrel-aged Saisons and things as well. So yeah, it has a lovely little bit of cleanliness and slickness to it. Carbonation, as I say, sort of amplifies that a wee bit. In terms of IBUs, I think this one's going to be very, very low, maybe about 10 IBUs at the absolute most. You do get a little bit of hoppy character out of this one into the aftertaste, though, in fairness. The malty kind of backbone in this beer, it's kind of smooth underneath because of the wood, of course. Then you've got the spirit there, but then yeah, a little bit of dryness, smoothness in the middle, and a very, very slight sweetness on top of the malt base. And the fruity side of this one is a little bit oily from the hops, but yeah, you've got that kind of sharpness, if you like, from the fact that this one is white wine barrel aged. So yeah, all in all, a really, really interesting beer, this one, and I'm certainly glad that I got the chance to try this, because I saw it was a collaboration with Minoh, and that immediately got me interested in this one, as well as the fact it's one of the first ones they've released in a can. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that with this one. So yeah, this was a lovely, very easy, it's actually a very easy drinking Saison, this one, and the smoothness you get out of this is what really makes it stand out to me, and the peach vanilla kind of mixture that this thing has is really interesting too. But yeah, this one was the Taro, a 6.5% Hokuho, if I've remembered the name right, peach infused Saison from Shiga Kogen Beer, part of the Tamamura Honten company in Yamanouchi, Nagano, Tohoku, further north on the island of Honshu in Japan, and it's brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Minoh Beer from Minoh in Osaka in the Kansai region further south. Two very well established Japanese craft breweries, and a really interesting beer they've pulled out of this one. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Shiga Kogen and Minoh as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and I will catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and kampai.